Hey champion guitar players, today I teach you how to take simple arpeggios and make both cool variations on them and how to sequence the arpeggios and sequence the variations. Now, why is this important and how is this cool? Well, if all we did was play arpeggios up and down and up and down and up and down in the common way you hear people do it, that tends to lose its interest after a while. But when we sequence the arpeggios and then make variations on both the arpeggios themselves and the sequences, we end up with something that sounds really cool and different from what you might normally do when playing arpeggios on the guitar. Hi, I'm Tom Hess, and when I first learned how to sweep pick arpeggios clean and fast, I was really happy for about a month or two, but then playing arpeggios in the typical way, up and down and up and down and up and down, started to get a little bit old, and I began looking for newer ways to play arpeggios. After a lot of searching around and trying to create something new and different, I finally realized that all I really had to do was make small variations to those arpeggios and then sequence them. Then playing guitar arpeggios became really fun again, and I could use the arpeggios in a new and different way. So I've taught the same stuff to thousands of my private and personal online guitar students over many years. And today I'm going to show you some of this stuff. So grab your guitar and let's have some fun. But before we do that, it's important that your hands are really warmed up. So if you need help on the best way to warm up on the guitar, check out my step-by-step tutorial on guitar warm-up exercises. All right, so our first example is going to be based on a C-sharp minor arpeggio, but we're actually going to start the arpeggio on the 7th, the flatted 7th of a C-sharp minor chord or C-sharp minor arpeggio. And the flatted 7th, in this case, would be the B note. So we're going to hit that with an upstroke, and then sweep picking downstroke, those 3 strings, and then the 7th on top with an upstroke and some nice vibrato. Because we want that high note to sing. We don't want it to just sort of die. That really doesn't have any life to it. Again, we're looking for the note to sing. So we've got our C-sharp minor 7th arpeggio. Now, we're going to take that arpeggio. Before we make variations, we're going to sequence it. So what does that mean? It means we're going to basically do the same thing again in the next lower position or the next lower inversion. So that would be this example here. And again, we've got the notes from the C-sharp minor triad, plus we've got the flatted 7th note, the B. Right there, it's note number 2, the second note in the arpeggio. The picking pattern is the same. Starts with an upstroke and then down, down, down. That's the sweep picking part. And the final note is played with an upstroke. Okay, now we can sequence this down again to the next inversion. I am going to make one little variation here to what would normally be this inversion to make it a little bit different. Okay, so what we would have here, this is really an A major arpeggio with the 13th added, but it sounds very similar to this C-sharp minor, okay, with the 11th added. But I'm just putting the A note here on the 2nd string instead. And on top here, we've got our D sharp, which would be the 9th. Sounds really cool. So altogether, the 3 examples we've got so far, up there on the flatted 7th note, has a really cool sound to it. When I say cool, I don't mean, cool like leather jacket and sunglasses. I mean cool like in temperature. Then, the next one, the 5th is on the highest note, is the highest note. So it sounds a little bit more stable. And then here, it sounds darker because we have the 9th on top. Now, if sweep picking is new to you, if you need help on that, check out my video on YouTube called Beginner's Guide, How to Sweep Pick the Right Way, and then come on back to this video. All right, so now let's take the 3 arpeggio shapes that we've gotten so far and let's sequence them or connect them together. So remember that on the top of each arpeggio, we want to hold that note out and have some nice vibrato there before we go to the next one. But when we do go to the next one, we want it to be a nice, smooth, seamless transition. So that might sound like something like this. Okay, so you notice after each arpeggio, I'm doing the vibrato on the top, but there's not like a weird, awkward pause between the last note of the first arpeggio and the first note of the next one. And that's what we're trying to do here, is connect them together smoothly. Now, I'll tell you a little trick here. Okay, now I normally wouldn't share this for free on YouTube, but I'm going to share this one because it really is very useful and you really should know it. So once we're doing this, okay, you'll notice that on the second to the last note of each arpeggio, you're playing that note with this finger, right? And then the next note is probably with your third finger or fourth finger. Now, most of the time when we do vibrato, we use the other fingers to help do the string bend of the vibrato, right? And since your first finger is already down on the guitar, it's common that you would use the first finger to help do the pushing to get the vibrato, right? But the problem with that is once this finger is down, because it's going to help this finger, guess what? It's now stuck here and it has to awkwardly get from here to there to play the start of the next arpeggio. And there are 2 problems. One, the finger is totally out of position. And number 2, if you move it while this note is sustaining, there's a good chance that this hand will create noise that we don't want, okay? So when you're doing the vibrato, take this finger off. Don't have it locked down here. As soon as this finger comes down, this one here, take this finger off. So it's free to move here for the next arpeggio. Same thing here. This finger is now free to start the third arpeggio. And same thing, when you get to the bottom, you still want this finger free. You don't want it locked down on the high E string, because if you want to repeat all this, this finger now has to play that note on the third string, and it will be awkward to get from here to here seamlessly. It's easier to move this finger when it's in the air. It's not playing anything. It's not locked down or attached to any string, and then get it to here. You still got to shift this way, but now you don't have to shift this way and have this awkward transition from string 1 to string 3. That will make this sort of exercise much easier to get so you can play it smoothly. All right, now for our next set of examples here, we're going to take the same arpeggio shapes that we started with, and we're going to make a variation on them, and then we're going to sequence that variation, okay? So for our first arpeggio, normally we would stop here as in the previous examples and do vibrato. But now we're going to slide from the 19th fret to the 21st fret and back to the 19th fret. That is called a back slide. You slide away from the note and then you slide right back to it. That is the definition of a backslide. Okay, so we're going to do a backslide, and then we're going to continue the arpeggio down and end on our the seventh of the arpeggio. Now from that, we're holding this note out with some nice vibrato, right? Then we go to the next arpeggio. There's our backslide. We've got vibrato here. And now we go to the third measure. Same thing. So we're sequencing the arpeggios. We are sequencing the backslides on top, on the high end of each arpeggio, and then we're doing the lowest note with the sustained vibrato or delayed vibrato, as notated in the notation in the tablature. And so we're sequencing all of that so we have a nice, cool, seamless transition, and it just sounds really nice and really cool. So for our fourth set of examples, again, we're going to build upon the previous example where we had the arpeggio, then we've got the backslide, then continue down the arpeggio, then we've got another backslide here. So it's a double backslide for this arpeggio. One here, and the other one here. Now we're going to sequence all of that to the next arpeggio lower. So again, there's the first backslide on top. And there's the second backslide on the bottom. And then we go to the next arpeggio and do the same thing. We play the arpeggio. There's going to be a backslide on top. There it is. Then continue down. And there is the bottom backslide. Okay, so all together. Now, you may have noticed between the first arpeggio and the second, when I just played it, there was a hesitation. I did not smoothly connect arpeggio 1 to arpeggio 2. But I did smoothly connect arpeggio 2 to arpeggio 3. So what I want you to do is pause the video right here in a moment, go back about 30 seconds, and watch and listen to how much smoother the second arpeggio sounds going into the third one than the first one did going into the second one, where it was like this kind of awkward pause or whatever. That's not what we want. We don't want an awkward pause. We want everything to be seamless. So go back and maybe about a minute back and listen for that and notice how much better arpeggio 2 going into arpeggio 3 sounded versus 1 to 2. Now let's talk about how to practice this stuff, not even specifically these examples, but how could you take this concept, the principle of this lesson, and use it? So one, we're looking for new and different ways to use arpeggios in ways that are creative and maybe different than just the typical up, down, up, down, up, down. Not that there's anything wrong with playing them up and down and up and down, but we want to be able to connect arpeggios together, integrate them together seamlessly, create variations and cool sequences. And when we do that, we can do so much more to make arpeggios more melodic and more creative and more expressive and just do different things with them that sound awesome. Now, I got to ask you, doesn't it drive you crazy when the songs or guitar solos or the exercises that you play on guitar might sound good on one day, but they don't sound as good the next day? And we've all had this problem. Every guitar player has faced this before. And it can be really frustrating when we can't rely on our guitar skills to be consistent and dependable in every situation. So for example, maybe when you're trying to record yourself or you're jamming with your friends or you want other people are watching you play or whatever, it's in those situations when you really want to play your best. But that's usually the time when your playing might tend to kind of fall apart a little bit, or at least not be as good as you know it is on your best days. Because you want to be able to show people, whether it's jamming with friends or playing for others or recording, you want to be able to show people what you can really do, right? And to do that, we need consistency. Well, fortunately, it's pretty simple to solve this problem by training the consistency of your guitar playing. There are specific, little known but proven effective guitar practice strategies you can use to build consistency, which is completely different than what you would do to learn and master something originally. Okay? The training is different, and it's crucial to understand that difference so that you can close the gap between your playing your best playing on your best days and your worst playing on your worst. You want this gap to close by on your worst days, that getting closer and closer to your best days so that you can play your best when you really need to. So download my new totally free guide to playing guitar accurately, consistently, and reliably, even on your worst days. Click on the link below to download your copy right now. You'll be glad that you did.